So I believe that this is a hard truth about math education and technology that many of us do not want to recognize, and it is that technology does harm to math education. Now, I own a math tutoring organization, obviously, and we're largely virtual. And so we definitely use technology for sure. The video conferencing software, I mean, application. We use some tools, math tools like Excel, and other things, Delta Math, Khan Academy, different stuff like that. And there is a place for technology in math education for sure. Technology has enabled many people to have more access to tools that will help them to improve in math, but there are harms done. There are harms done because of how digital we are these days. And I'm saying this from my perspective as one who's owned a math tutoring organization for several years. But think about this. This is my personal observation. You may have different thoughts, but that's fine. We typically look at advancement in any area, like technological advancement, as kind of like a key sign of improvement. Whereas I believe that that kind of view actually harms us. So let me explain what I mean. Technology in all realms, from education to health and fitness to food, all this kind of stuff, it has enabled us to speed everything up. It's enabled us to, as we say, save trees by not using so much paper and all this kind of stuff. We do everything digitally, save some work, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence. But my question is, at what cost? Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that technology is all bad, but I am saying that there are harms being done. So let me explain it by explaining to you what I've noticed helps kids to get the most out of math, uh, technology having to do with math education. The first thing is this: digital stuff like using math technology, math applications, all this, whatever stuff that might be on the internet, it works best for the undistracted. So I remember when I was first going to college, and I got a scholarship to go to the school that I went to, and a part of the scholarship package was me getting a laptop computer. Now this was 20 years ago, so getting a laptop was like a big deal. At least to me it was. And you fast forward to today, where public schools are now issuing, like my children, issue tablets, laptops, and whatnot. Everybody gets one. And I think it's cool, but of course, what it represents is that a lot of the work that students do uh, in school is now on computers. Now, the reason why I say, like, these type of technologies and whatnot for math education work best for the undistracted is because, as we know, devices, laptops, tablets, phones have a lot of other things on them, a lot of applications. Now, of course, kids may not be able to use social media in theory on their school issue devices, but nonetheless, many kids have phones and stuff like that, and they find ways to use the stuff on those school issued devices. But you have to be very disciplined as a young person to always be on a device and learn. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's all bad, it's not, but you have to be very, very focused. I had to be very focused as a grown up to be productive using a device, because there's so many things. I do so much of what I do in life on here, and there are distractions of YouTube and, like I say, social media and all that kind of stuff. Now, I had the advantage of growing up in a time where we didn't have any of this stuff, but these kids are growing up with these things, and so this is all that they know. And so, in some ways, I think that we are, when we use these devices, and kids still have access to so much online. They know what's on there, at least in part, they know what's on there. They are having to exercise another level of self control that we did not have to exercise. And I believe this is actually harming math education because it's a major distraction. And if the truth be told, all these like devices and stuff are distractions to us as adults as well who didn't grow up around this stuff. The second truth that I want to say is this. What I've noticed as a math tutor is that learning with multiple senses really matters. So, as I said, Math Swap Tutoring is a virtual tutoring organization. But one of the things that we really try to do is make the learning interactive. So, first of all, you're not looking at a recording, you're talking to a real tutor. Now, we're not in person, granted, but the student gets to ask me questions, bounce things off, ask questions in real time of a living, breathing human. That matters. Also, we make a point of demonstrating the same way you would in school on the screen steps, going through problems systematically. Math is a very systematic, very step by step kind of thing, as you know. And we make a point of going through all the steps and showing them on the screen, getting the students either to show us on the screen or if they're using paper and whatnot, which we highly encourage, dictating to us, okay, what did you do? What did you do? That matters. I believe that if kids are simply just doing these things on laptops or whatever, especially if they don't have the ability to write, I believe that that actually harms math education for sure, for sure. And again, my concern is that the digitization of everything presents hurdles to young people that are causing them a harder time to really focus and do the things that are necessary to do well in math, if that makes sense. Um, One thing I noticed as a math tutor is that students don't have textbooks anymore. Uh, some of them get worksheets, some of them don't. But there's something about holding something tangibly in the real world. There's something about that sometimes, you know. So think about this. When we had textbooks when I was a kid, we had to wrap them in we had to do book covers for them and stuff like that where you get the grocery brown paper bags and cover them or whatever you do. And we would have assignments out of those. It was hard enough to do assignments out of a textbook when you had the physical textbook. But now if these kids have textbooks, they're PDFs. And who's going to look at that? Who's gonna look at some thick PDF? Some kids are, again, if they're really, really, really focused. But I mean, it's hard for us to open up PDFs and stuff like that unless we have a real, real interest in the material. So I say that to say, I believe that if we don't pay attention to the fact that you had to be really, really focused, you had to be focused anyway, but you had to be really, really focused when you're using tech with, you know, um, learning math, and you have to still make sure that you're utilizing as many senses as possible. You know, writing, pencil to paper, so you can do step by step. Hearing, seeing, all of these kinds of things together make a difference in math education. And my concern is that because we're rushing so much to the latest and greatest technological tools, we're causing our kids to have an extra burden when it comes to math, which is already the subject that kids complain about the most. And we keep on seeing in America like kids falling behind in math. The last thing I want to say is this. So when I teach kids in person, I talk to them and I ask them about artificial intelligence and kind of how they use it. And they admit to me they use it to write papers. They use it to do math problems. Now, I believe that AI can definitely be beneficial, especially as it pertains to maybe saving um, time doing like menial tasks and stuff like that, you know. However, here's my concern. School is not perfect, but at least with school, in some ways, you're training your brain. You're training yourself to think in different kind of ways. A lot of kids have complaints about, man, what am I gonna do with this math later on? Like, what am I gonna do? And it's true. A lot of stuff you ain't gonna do anything with. Even me as an engineer, I took so much math, high school, college, graduate school, math that I never use. I use more math, of course, as a math tutor than I would ever use as an engineer when I was working as an engineer. But all that math taught me how to think. It helped me to learn how to think in a very logical, systematic way. And I think that what we need to really remember as we go into using AI and all this kind of stuff is that the goal is to train the human mind to help us to think better, help us to learn how to use these powerful brains on the inside of us. And my concern is that in such a rush to use AI and to be on the front end of all this kind of stuff that we don't train young minds really much anymore. We just kind of train them to save time. And think about this. What who developed artificial intelligence? Likely it was a lot of engineers, programmers and whatnot who had learned this stuff, and you know they over many years developed AI as we know it. But if we're not really effectively training human minds, who's going to be the ones in the future who are going to develop the next helpful, whether it be tech or whatever, the next helpful solution for humanity? Now, again, AI can be used as part of that, but my concern is, toward what end? I think we have to remember to keep the person, the student, the human in the front of everything. So that we're not just concerned about saving time and being more efficient and all these kind of things. And then we as people kind of fall through the cracks. So I kind of just sharing my thoughts about the current state of technological affairs as it pertains to math education. But what do you think? Do you think technology is harming math education more than it's helping? Do you think it's helping more than harming? Let me know what you think in the comments. And thank you for watching. Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you need math tutoring or you need SAT math help, look in the description to find out how you can sign up today. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you stay in touch with Math Swap Tutoring on YouTube. Have a good one.